welcome back to another video. This really popped when I saw it. That to me is a monster increase. Again, this book got hot. This book is ready to go higher. So let's jump right into it. We are back today with another statue review from Diamond Select Toys. Without further ado, let's get into the review. What is going on, YouTube? This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles, and I want to thank you guys for joining me for another video here on the channel. I went to a local toy show over the weekend, and I gotta tell you, I found some really cool things. I've been to this show before, but this time they had some really cool stuff that I haven't seen before. But before we get started in the video, like always, I remind you guys, if you're not a current sub of the channel, do yourself a favor, hit that sub button. We're doing all types of toy, collectible, comic content here on the channel. You do not want to miss out. With that said, do me a favor, smash the like button for me. We're trying to get to 10,000 subs by the end of the year. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's check out this toy show. So the first thing you're going to notice in this video is there are a lot of Star Wars figures that people are trying to sell. Some vintage, some modern, some in between. Either way, people are trying to unload their Star Wars figures just because there are a ton of them out there. So definitely a lot of Marvel Legends as well. A ton of loose figures that they had at this show. I'm talking anywhere from Motu to Marvel Legends. You could not believe some of the stuff they have. If you're a loose collector, I think they had almost every figure you could actually want. So of course, here we have some modern turtles, some nice classic Motu, modern Motu. These are awesome, but I think way overpriced at 170, 125 bucks. Of course, a nice Japanese Optimus Prime. You cannot go wrong. Again, a little bit too expensive for my taste. And of course, some new figures, the classic X-Men 97 figures that just got released. And of course, those great remakes of the Superpowers figures. Couple of cool Misfit toys, some underground figures which I've never seen before. We have one of our comic dealers there. This guy actually had some pretty cool books, some first appearances, some classic covers, stuff like that. I thought he was a little bit overpriced, but not too bad. Infinity Gauntlet. Definitely some cool Conan figures I had never seen before. Some classic LJN WWF figures. And as you guys can see right there, check this out. We had a G1 Soundwave Transformers. Wasn't sealed, but it was mint in box. We'll talk about that a little bit later at the end of this video, so stick around. A lot of Matchbox cars, man. A lot of dealers had sealed Matchbox. Not too sure if they were modern or vintage, but a lot of mint on card Matchbox. Here we go, some more Hot Wheels stuff. Crazy the amount of them that were still out there. And some more loose Star Wars figures, some other figures mixed in. Some more Turtles. Just seems like they keep remaking Turtles figures, right? Every couple of years they come out with a new release of Turtles figures. Some classic Voltron figures. I'm not too sure what these were. I think that was Voltron 2 if my memory serves me correctly. But here we have some great DC and Marvel toys. Some more WWE figures. I was a bit surprised that there were more loose figures and not a lot of vintage mint on card stuff. There's a great Terminator figure right there. I was really hoping to see some vintage Motu on card, some more Transformers G1s mint in box, some Thundercats mint on card. I didn't see any of that stuff for the most part. All I saw was a lot of modern Marvel, a lot of modern Star Wars, and some DC, of course. Some McFarlane DC. Here we have a cool Masters of the Universe Stranger Things combo. That was really weird to see. I've never seen that before. That is a new Origins line, but I haven't seen that one before. Some more Origins as well. Some WWE Origins. Again, more wrestling figures as well. All new stuff, not a lot of vintage, unless they were loose. Some Funko Pops, which to me is the biggest waste of money of all time. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Cobra Kai. How weird is that seeing those together? They have some cool Rocky figures here. I'm assuming these are newer figures and not vintage ones. The vintage ones were really awesome. If you can still find them mint on card, they're worth quite a bit of money. These were cool. Some WCW Nitro LJN action figures. So if you guys don't remember the LJN WWE figures back in the day, they were freaking awesome and super hard to find. I actually owned a ton of those things, but then I never collected the WCW ones. Some Star Trek mint on card. Again, those are newer figures as well. Some more WWE. Check this one out. We covered this on our last toy eBay video. Some A-Team mint on card figures. Some more stuff we're going to talk about at the end of this video because I made this guy an offer, but he did not accept. A lot of loose Motu, some loose Thundercats, which are cool. This is the only mint on card Masters of the Universe figure that I saw a Scare Glow. Again, of course, what else? Some more modern Star Wars figures. They're just not worth anything. That's the problem. That's why they sit around. These are the new ones, the retro ones. These actually look pretty cool and they're pretty inexpensive. So if you're going to collect a Star Wars figure and you don't want to break the bank, those are the ones I'd be going for because they look almost identical to the original ones from the late 70s, early 80s. This place was really crowded, so sometimes filming may not be the best view, but I did the best I could here because there's a lot of people shopping for toys, which I was shocked at. This show does occur once a month, so if you guys don't know or live in the area and you want to check it out, it's usually one Sunday a month. Here we have some cool modern like Mego figures, which are pretty cool if you collect those type of things. Pretty inexpensive as well. Classic Superpowers case right there. That's pretty cool. And G.I. Joe. I love seeing vintage stuff out in the wild. I think it's freaking awesome. This booth had some really cool cards. There were a bunch of card dealers there as well. Some Marvel cards, DC, of course, baseball cards. A few people had Garbage Pail Kids, but not many. More loose Marvel Legends. My kid actually wanted a loose Daredevil figure, which I was able to pick up. You could kind of see him right there. Ended up buying that one for him. Some classic NES games for cheap. Classic G.I. Joe. And there was one of the few people who had Garbage Pail Kids. I believe this was series 3, 4, and 5, which they wanted way too much money for a complete set of those, but because those are really not worth too much. Only series 1 and 2. I was just talking about muscle figures the other day with someone, so it was funny to see them here. Again, some more modern G.I. Joe. This is the only table that had modern G.I. Joe. Of course, more classic Star Wars figures. Some 3-inch Marvel figures. This lady looked thrilled to be there, of course. But this booth actually had some pretty cool statues, but they were a little bit too overpriced for me. If you're going to buy a statue, you got to get a deal on it, especially when they're only a foot tall. Check this out. This guy had a Nintendo action set. This is the re-release that occurred in 1988, not the original version that was released, and I think in 85. But either way, very cool, complete in box. He also had some loose Nintendo games as well. Some loose turtles. Pretty cheap if you guys collect turtles, but like I said, they put out new ones every year or so. Another comic dealer. This guy actually had some pretty cool stuff. Let's go ahead and point out some of the first appearance and key issues that he had. So we have a classic Neil Adams Superman cover, a Shazam #1, second appearance of the Lizard right there. We have the first appearance of Vision, first Doctor Strange in his own solo title. Then of course we have some great Green Lantern covers, the classic Drug issue as well, first appearance of Dormammu, second appearance of Dr. Octopus, and I believe that is it. This table had a ton of Transformers figures, but they were all reissues, okay? There's some new ones as well, but the reissue ones were from like the mid-2000s, I think, around that time. They really aren't worth much. Some cool statues as well. What else? More modern Star Wars that just sits and sits and sits. More muscle figures. These are actually pretty cool because they were Motu muscle figures. And then we had these 3-inch Motu figures from Super 7 back in 2019. I actually never have seen these up close and personal before. They're only 15 bucks. I almost picked up all of them, but I thought to myself, I can't get every character, so why am I going to buy them? But very cool to see in person. So again, they had some card dealers here. A lot of people had a lot of cards that in my opinion really weren't worth a ton of money. Here we have some cool, Flintstones cards, some sports cards, some movie cards, stuff like that. There we have a Wolverine set, a classic cover comic set, some Marvel sets. Very cool stuff if you like those type of things. But again, in my opinion, they're collectible, that they're really not worth a ton of money. This guy actually had some great cards. He had a Series 5 Chrome Garbage Pail Kids set, and he also had some really classic baseball cards that I haven't seen some of these in quite a long time. So I've never told you guys before, I used to collect a lot of baseball cards when I was a kid, and unfortunately I do not have that collection any longer. I wish I did, because some of them are worth a pretty penny right now, even though I know baseball cards have gotten crushed in value over the past 20 plus years. Some wrestling cards. Those are things I have not seen in a very long time, but I gotta be honest, a lot of people there were not looking for cards, they were looking for toys. There's this cool signed Undertaker figure. And how about these? The original line of Marvel Legends. I used to have every one of these things sealed in their original packages when I first got out of college, and then of course, what did I do? I sold them all off. Here's one of my favorites though, that AF-15. So that's it for the show floor. Again, a lot of great toys were at this show. This is the first time that I've been there, and I have gone before, that they had some really cool vintage stuff that I was interested in, especially those mint on card 18 figures. We covered them on one of my eBay sales videos, and I gotta be honest, they are super hard to find in really great condition, and his Murdoch and his Hannibal were really good. The bubbles were just yellowed. The B.A. Baracus one was a little rough, but he wanted $300 for the set, and he wouldn't budge off that number. I gave him a $200 offer only because when we covered the eBay sales videos, 2 of them sold for under $70. So I wanted to save some money if I was going to buy them. But this was my thought when I was looking at those figures, is that people who are 40 something years old remember the A-Team. Anybody younger than that probably doesn't even know who the A-Team is. So if you're going to buy those, you're going to hang on to them. You're really not going to be able to resell them later on down the road, only because the younger generation is not going to know who the hell the A-Team was. But either way, super cool. If I can get them for the right price, I would have bought them because you don't see them every day. The other one that I went after was that G1 Soundwave mint in box. But again, the seller wanted $450. I offered him $350. He came back at $400, but the box condition was not great. Inside, some of the pieces were moving around, and I found one on eBay for $500 that looked a hell of a lot better. If I can pull the trigger on that one for between $400 and $450, I may do that. So I just wanted to hold off because I didn't want to overspend on something. I can get one for around the same price in better condition. So the only thing that I actually did buy in the show, and when I saw this, I asked the guy how much it was, and I couldn't believe it was this cheap. I did my due diligence on eBay, and I found them for $300 on eBay. So offered the guy $150. He came back to $170, and I was able to pick up this classic 1988 complete in box Nintendo Entertainment System. How about that one, guys? This thing is fucking awesome. I used to have, of course, the original Nintendo way back in the day. I had the one that came out in 1985. I didn't have the one with Rob. If you guys know, the one with Rob is the little robot. That was the first one that came out. Did not have that one. I played it at my cousin's house. He had it. And then, of course, I had to ask my dad for one. And he got me one later on that Christmas. But this is the second one or third one that came out after that from 1988. It came with Duck Hunt and Super Mario Brothers, the cartridge. This is complete in box. It means everything is there, including all manuals. I already went ahead and cleaned this thing. Looks absolutely spectacular. It does work. So I'm just going to leave it packaged in the box because I do have my own classic Nintendo already. Just to have it cool, complete in box, I thought was well worth it though for $170. You just don't see it. This is from 1985. It says on the actual console. So what we're looking at, 40 almost years old, and you never know, for the 40th year anniversary next year it should be, who knows, maybe the prices jump up. So that was my thinking. So either way, guys, it was a good time. I would definitely be checking out the show again. This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics Collectibles saying thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.